When did the reality set in that you had won?
It's still sinking in, to be honest. And challenges are enormous and immense, so it's very sobering.
We all know from any administration, presidential to governor, long hours, sometimes it infringes on your family. Was there a bit of a convincing job to do with some of the people you're bringing in? Or?
Yes, financial sacrifices, family sacrifices, but we all said it's a 4-year term. We got a chance to get Rhode Island going in a better direction, and we're going to be sensitive to family issues and also make sure, let's have some fun in confronting these challenges.
Let's talk about some of the appointments. Pat Rogers is a guy that, I think political people know, but maybe not the general public. How did that, and you've had a history with him, what do you see as his primary function for you?
Well, Chief of Staff is an important position, just coordinating with everybody, whether it's the directors, the legislature, the scheduler, a lot of decisions that are important just to make the machinery work in a well-oiled way.
And I don't say this pejoratively, but does he also have to be the hatchet man? You know, we talked about during the election, because you were an independent, you didn't have your party chair. Do you envision his role as having to be the tough guy sometimes?
Yes, that is part of it. And traditionally, the Chief of Staff does have some political elements to it. You're also on the side making sure the political apparatus is working, whether it's fundraising or I'm not part of a party anymore, but just getting around to doing the politically correct things.
You raised a few eyebrows with some, but maybe not with others in retrospect when you chose Richard Leach for administration. How did that come about?
I served with Richard on a board, and we'd meet in New York City, and he became chair of this national organization. It's on reproductive freedoms, the board promoting reproductive freedoms, and he became the national chair. And at those meetings, we were always friendly because this is Rhode Island, but I came to really respect his administrative talents.
The lieutenant governor's position has one that has been a lot of friction over the years. And I recall Bob Wagan having a little bit of overlap with Sunland, but for the most part, it's been one party, the other party. I know Governor Kachiri had issues during the snowstorm with Lieutenant Governor Roberts. You've embraced her, and you've given her really something that she feels is her forte, healthcare. How did that come about?
Well, I just think that we need everybody pulling on the oars together to get the state going in a better direction. And the Lieutenant Governor, she was reelected fairly handily and got a lot of talent, served in the state Senate, and has carved out an interest area, healthcare as you mentioned, and also by statute she's head of small business and also I believe emergency management. And so it's just a natural to have good communication and part of the team, and she was very, very happy and offered to events that I can attend, let her know, and she'll cover for me as it will and bring the greetings of the state. So I look forward to a great partnership.
What is going to be the biggest difference that people are going to see between the Kachiri administration and a Chafee administration, in the short term anyway?
Well, I think the effort to bring people together, I'm not going to vilify state employees, I'm not going to vilify unions, we're all in it together, and that's going to be the biggest change. I mean, tomorrow, or the day after the inauguration, I'll repeal the executive order on E-Verify. That's a symbolic move saying we're in this together. Let's all work together to get Rhode Island moving forward.
Have you had discussions with the Colonel about that? Because the Colonel, I know, serves at your pleasure, but he was, following through on Governor Kachiri's as a good lieutenant does, or a colonel, lieutenant figuratively. Have you had discussions about what the practical effect is going to be for the state police?
Yes, we have.
And so
right away.
What is the practical effect going to be?
Well, we just have to make sure that we enforce the law. That's number one. And also be sensitive to the fact that America is made great by immigrants. And there are many here, and we're going to absolutely enforce the law, but be sensitive to this. What makes America and Rhode Island great is our great, rich history of immigrants.
You've reached out to the unions. You got some of their support. I'm curious, when the rubber really hits the road, 4 or 6 months from now during the budget process, and you're looking for concessions, and ultimately they have to look out for that constituency. How do you see that playing out differently than the current administration? One of the reasons I asked about a difference in administration, there's always been this big gap kind of when it comes down, and quite frankly, the legislature has steamrolled the governor the last 8 years on most things. How do you see that dynamic changing as we go through the budget process?
My grandfather used to say, and I hope I get this right, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And with the unions, that's very true. We're going to make better, have better concessions with a better relationship in working together in these tough times, rather than with the vinegar and the heavy stick.
You get in, State of the Union comes at the end of January, budget, I know it's been put off some in previous administrations, but you have to get it in sometime within a very short period of time into February. And you've been very careful to say, look, there's one governor. Even doing this interview, we're not in the state room, we're here in the transition offices, and I appreciate that. How is it going to work on that short timetable in terms of looking at specifics to put together a budget? What is going on right now to do that?
Yes, the budget process starts in October, really. So even before the governor's been elected, the new governor's been elected, the budget process is working. Every department's submitting their budgets. And so it's very condensed time frame. I would hope that I would not delay too much the budget, push it back. I want to get that early on, perhaps even proposing that 1% broadening of the sales tax in the interim before the next fiscal year even kicks in. If we can implement that in this coming 6 months before the start of the fiscal year on July 1st, that would help with our deficit.
You invited top legislators, lawmakers down to your home. And I talked to some who were like, when they got the invitation, they were like, wow, this is a little new and different. Where did that idea come from, and what do you see? Again, I know it's communication you've talked about. What was the purpose in doing that?
I did it as mayor and have the council people into the house, directors into our house, and I hope to continue it. That's not just the one and done. And it's very productive. People socialize together, and it's fun. And that's got to be part of getting our state back on track, is having some fun.
That was within the last couple of weeks?
Yes.
And what was I'm sure you had one-on-ones with a lot of them down there. What was the reaction from them?
Let's keep doing this. This is good. And it does have to be limited in how many people you can fit into the House. And so in this case, it was the committee chairs of the House and Senate, the leadership and committee chairs of the House and Senate. But I'd like to get others that are serving the legislature, but not technically committee chair.
There has been a lot of talk about Deborah Gist and her future. What have the discussions been between the two of you, and would you like her to stay on?
Well, I care deeply about our school system. I always have as mayor, and I saw firsthand how when labor and management, particularly school unions, start butting heads, that the losers are the youngsters in the school system. I saw that in Warwick. The teachers worked to rule and different work stoppages. The people that were hurt most were the children in the school system. So I'm very concerned about this war that seems to be growing in how we address the challenges in our school system.
Do you think she's been responsible for creating that atmosphere?
She's done a lot of good. We have a school formula for the first time. She's shaken things up here in Rhode Island. She's brought a lot of attention to the school system. But I was there last February when those teachers were told to stand up alphabetically as they were fired. And I just said, this is not in the best interest of a cohesive, collaborative approach to reforming education. And now we're seeing the ramifications of that. So we're going to continue to have discussions, Superintendent Gist. We are over the last several weeks, and we will continue on philosophies of how we improve our school system.
Do you think she's been divisive?
I saw what happened in Central Falls, and I was there in the auditorium last February, and that was divisive, no doubt about it.
Is it more a case then in your mind of style maybe getting in the way of substance? In other words, and I'm hearing two things. One is that some of the results are good, but how you get from A to B. And I know you've always been big on process, that sometimes maybe the substance gets ameliorated by the style. Is that a concern? I mean, if it was a different style, or are there fundamental philosophies that you have issues with?
Well, the first time I met Superintendent Gist was right before the meeting of Central Falls last February, and I went to her office and said, one of the problems with the Rhode Island economy is that labor management over our recent history in Rhode Island has been at a detriment to moving our economy forward, whether it was Narragansett Brewery, strikes, and labor management, and finally they just closed the doors. No more Narragansett Brewery. What was it? 400 people, 500 people, 600 people laid off without a job. Brown and Sharp, the longest strike in the nation's history. Labor management fighting away. And now I saw it firsthand in the Warwick school system. And we want to change that, I said to her. We cannot move our economy forward with labor management butting heads. And we've got to just, you're going to have your differences, but you can't go to war.
Have you been to the governor's office? I mean, at any point during the transition period or not?
I have not.
Okay. And is there a specific reason for that? I mean, did you?
Yes, I think just respect that the administration's serving out their final weeks of their term and let them finish it out.
The press has made some issue of the fact that you haven't met with Governor Chafee. Has that just been by happenstance or deliberately saying, I'm going to come in and do my own thing? What's been the reason for that?
I think the latter. I just want to come in with a fresh approach and different. And I didn't meet with the outgoing mayor when I came in as mayor. Let them finish out their term. It's going to be different.